Hello guys, welcome back to the channel, the Manga Man here, and today we're talking about One Piece. One Piece chapter 1094 and a little bit of catch up. As per usual, I'm late. It's nothing new. For those 8 people or so that watch this channel, thank you very much. Whether it's at a few seconds or at a minute or all the video, I appreciate it. But to cut this short, without further ado, let's get into this review. So, to really cover this chapter, and without going through everything that happens, there's so many different moving pieces. It's important to bear in mind that there's a lot that's going to happen over the entire arc, that has ebbs and flows, that kind of has narrative points that kind of string everything together. So it's difficult to see where things are going as a whole. But what I want to do is focus on a few things and kind of give my thoughts, what these things mean, or what they could lead to, and maybe some influences that influence designs and so on and so forth from a storytelling point of view and character narrative. So if we think about the fight between Kizaru and Luffy, not really a lot happens between the two that really tells us who's stronger. If anything, what this tells us is this Admiral Kizaru can hang with Gear 5th Luffy. And by the end of 1094, he's kind of out of juice. Now, what this does is two things. Number one, it adds a little bit of stakes because ultimately Luffy can't stay in that power for long, which means he has to depower, kind of like the whole situation in Dressrosa with his fight with Doflamingo and him having a cooldown. That I think is fine because it puts a limit on a godly power. So that isn't a problem. The concern though is now that this has happened, how does this kind of scale with fighting Kaido? And what this tells me straight up is Kaido is still stronger. He's stronger than Luffy and he's stronger than the Admiral. Purely and simply because this is his peak power that he used as a finishing blow against Kaido. But there was a lot of things going up to the fight, to that point of the fight with Kaido, that kind of took its toll on Kaido and then led to the victory, narratively, plot armor, whatever you want to call it. The other side to that coin, you've got to think about is well, Luffy doesn't always necessarily beat his opponent the first time round. I mean, Kaido took 3 or 4, maybe 5 goes. I can't remember. I lost count how many times he had goes at him. And every major fight he's had before that, he's not necessarily always beaten them first time round. So this might be a learning experience for him because he's going through the levels. So he kind of learned advanced armament haki. He's learned advanced observational haki, advanced conqueror's haki to get him to this level, but he's only at the cusp, he's only the tip of the iceberg really. So there's still going to be a refinement process, and these type of battles are important. So him supposedly doing damage to Kizaru but then running out of power is fine for now. Ultimately, as he develops, this should be a thing that we start seeing less of and more refinement, more control, and hopefully dealing with opponents quicker. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the moving pieces. Now, the whole thing with the pacifistas, being on their side, not being on their side, being on the side again, not being on the side, is fine. It just moves the story along because you have the chip that gives you authority. Then you've got the people, the satellites having power, then the people above them are the Gorosei. It kind of just, it's an escalation process to really show that he's on the field now, and then that's kind of where we're at. The whole thing with Bonnie, the one thing I will say, ultimately, the Shintomaru helping Bonnie, tanking it, just does wonders for me into thinking he should be the next Straw Hat. Other than Vivi and possibly Bronclay, that for me, the enemy that becomes a friend, is a nice little story that I'm sure Oda can weave nicely. I wouldn't mind Sentomaru being the next Straw Hat, and maybe helping teach the other people in the Straw Hat crew, the basics of Haki, because ultimately we only see a few people have it, and it'd be nice to see the rest of the Straw Hats, whether it's a time skip or anything else like that. Then the last thing I want to talk about is the whole thing with Saturn, him being some type of Oni. I like that because it adds a whole new element. We've been talking about Oni, or we've been hearing about Onis with the whole Kaido referencing being the king of the beast. His name escapes me, but there's a king of Onis that's a drunkard, but there's also another reference to a king of Onis that's a king of 100 beasts. And I felt that Kaido was a combination of those things, but this also could be a reference to Emu being the king of beasts as well, and this might be going towards that direction, and all of them will have something like that, and it'll just be over time we'll get introduced to the different beasts as we go along in the story. And this one is a type of bull, type of spider, kind of a Bloodborne Cthulhu reference, kind of. There's a referencing that the Bloodborne story uses Lovecraftian, so it's a Lovecraftian type of character. So hopefully, this might be something we can explore with the other ones. It also made me think of the Journey of the West and Sun Wukong, and him having different people that had like different kind of backgrounds. Him being a monkey and him having sworn brothers. One of them being a sage, one of them being Pigsy, one of them being a bull type of character. And so this could be that the original Nika maybe was the friend and companion of these people before betrayal, or the people who had the original devil fruits. If these people aren't him on, if they are, it could be that they were his friends. And that's maybe why he makes that, or he sees him and he says Nika. He sees Luffy kind of deflating and says Nika. I also find it interesting that there was a level requirement. Anyone below a certain level shouldn't look at him, and we see that they explode, and that kind of adds to don't Medusa, don't look at him type of scenario. But it also might be haki related, because this form is kind of like burning up your haki, and it's so intense it can literally destroy you. And it might be that next level of Conqueror's haki that we're waiting to see, that might be that level beyond what we've seen so far, because we've seen multiple levels of awakenings. We've seen multiple levels of courting haki, Boshokuna haki, and its applications. We've seen the future sight. There's probably going to be other things there, and I think this might lead into that. We haven't seen what's going on with Kuma. We know Bonnie stabs Saturn at the end. I'm interested to see what's going to happen with the giant. There's spoilers out for this chapter. I'll probably do that one late because I'm away this weekend. But that's all I've got for today. If there's anything that's interesting of note, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, see you next time. Peace.